sure what I'm normally doing. Hello, everyone. And now I'm going, hello, everyone. And welcome to another random chat with Dade and Jude. I am Dade.
And I am Jude.
Not sure why we're doing that introduction, but why not? And just keep it interesting and keep it entertaining. So we are here today as a random chat to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which mostly shouldn't be one of my favorite subjects.
It just is.
Like, it's just okay. So how, like, without saying what it is, Jude, how would you talk about this subject?
Without saying what it is, how would I talk about this subject? Wow.
I just go, it brings me pleasure. Like, it's something that I just kind of look forward to.
You know when actions speak 1,000 words?
Yes.
I'm going to act out what we're going to talk about today.
So people listening to this is why you should watch the YouTube as well.
Yes, exactly. So just, you're going to have to follow up on YouTube.
We will
Are
tell you in about 3 minutes because I'm going to do the same. Are you ready?
3,
Yeah.
2, 1.
So for people who are just listening to our podcast and not watching the visuals, we've just had a sip of wine because today's podcast is about our love of wine or just wine in general. Like, why do you love wine, Jude? Because I know you do.
I do. And I really do. I find it's such, as I've got older, I've gotten a real affiliation for wine, an appreciation which I didn't have when I was younger, when I didn't really know what I liked or why I liked it.
Yeah.
But now I'm definitely not a connoisseur in any way, shape, or form. But living in California.
And just to let you know, everyone, this podcast, if you are a wine connoisseur, we are not trying to be you at all into this.
Oh, no. No. No.
We are just sharing our opinion of why we love wine. But go, Jude. Sorry, I cut you off.
But living in California, and the reason why we pay the sunshine tax is because we literally have so many amazing vineyards at our disposal. And
don't you just love a good vineyard?
Oh, I do. And like wine tasting is such a thing that I just enjoy doing. Again, not because I know necessarily every single thing that they're talking about. I just like to be introduced to new flavors. Yeah. I like to challenge myself to see whether I can smell all the things that they say is in the wine.
That's and just things, yeah, I want to tap into there. Let's just go. Can we just go? So let's come back to let's just tap into the because I remember wineries and the experiences, but I just want to tap. You know, when they're talking about like, can you smell that deep, rich? And I'm like, no.
Do you smell the chocolatey undertones with the citrus flair? That comes from the ocean.
You know, you're like, no.
I'm like, no.
So this is why we're not the wine experts, but we appreciate you trying to take us on a journey.
100%.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your craft. I'm not taking the piss out of anyone's craft right now. It's just when I go, I'm like, yeah. But I appreciate what you're talking to me about the journey of it.
Absolutely. The journey of it. And I like to understand the history about it. Like when we recently went to Croatia, I loved understanding there's a big kind of conflict between where Zinfandel grape came from. Mm-hmm. A lot of Americans think it came from, I think I'm right in saying California. And a lot of Croatians say, no, the Zinfandel grape originally came from us. And so wherever you go, there will be these kind of territorial stories, which I just find so entertaining. But what I really love about going to these vineyards that are around us and doing all of these wine tastings is that it introduces you to the pairings to have with certain foods.
100%. Yeah.
And that for me makes, for somebody who just loves to go out for dinner with friends anyway, it just makes the whole experience, like to try something with wine pairings and just to really get that bigger appreciation for the food you're eating and with the drink that you're drinking. Great. It's just such an enjoyable.
Yeah, I do like that. And once again, love that kind of experience. I also sometimes go, can you just fill up that glass that just a little?
Yeah. Like I'm going to neck that back in one.
That's just a mouthful in my kind of things. I'm not supposed to be coming off across well with podcast. But you know, you just like, yeah, I do agree. And that's what you do find, you start to understand the balances. And that's the thing, I'm starting to talk. I start to understand the balances between food and wine and that kind of thing, which is lovely. Because I remember going to like nice restaurants and you eat something and you have a sip of wine. It's just delicious combinations. You're like, sommeliers, like when sommeliers talk to you about the wine and the things. Sometimes I get a bit lost. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
It
It depends on where you go and
yeah.
who, like the fancier the restaurant, the fancier the sommelier, and then the more kind of out of depth you think you are. And I just nod politely and just keep saying, yeah, pour me some more. That's really delicious.
Yeah.
But I think also, like, sometimes you go to these restaurants and they always want to offer you a really fancy bottle of wine because of the history or the heritage or the vintage, the year, you know, where it came from, what barrel it was in, all of these fabulous things that add to the flavor.
Yeah.
But I also want to introduce decanters to that conversation, because having decanted wine, the taste indifference of wine when you pour
100%
it
agree.
straight from a bottle or when you decant it, and you don't have to necessarily have these big, fancy, expensive bottle of wines that, let's be honest, at the end of a long week, you just want to have a nice glass of red wine. But if you decanter a good $10 bottle of wine, it to me tastes like it could be 5 times as much. Do you know what I mean? It adds all of that oxygenation and all of that other fancy stuff. But
I used to have like air filters for some of my wine, but I haven't actually got a decanter. But I do understand why you decant
every single bottle I do.
But I want to go back to when you're at the restaurant again, right?
Yes.
Because that's the thing, is that I'm like, oh, this sounds good, and then I'm like, that's $350 for a bottle of wine. That's quite a lot. Because there are some, like, when I see the prices of some things, I'm like, well, it must be like great and like beautiful, but I'm like, how do they come up with the prices, like, of some of these bottles of wine? Like, how do you like? Obviously, there's unit costs and things like that. But how do you go, yes, I've made a wine that's $500 a bottle? That's like, it's like...
Well, I think it's got a lot to do with the grape, because obviously grapes and how they perform in wine is so affected by the environmental factors. So sometimes if there's a grape that, like, I'm not even going to try and pretend I know what I'm talking about, but say there's a very common grape that's used in a lot of average bottled wine, but then say something happens environmentally to that batch and it makes it a rarity because they don't have, you know, the environment they've not had enough water, or they've not had enough sunlight, or the ground was too wet. Like, these are the things that can affect it. So then therefore maybe it becomes a more rarity.
The way it's made, 100%. I can get that. And that's the thing. It's just I get the process of it and things like that. But sometimes I'm just like, I'm not paying like $500 for a bottle.
No, who does? I mean,
that would be gone in like half hour.
Yeah, right. It's like, I mean, that is, if you can afford to indulge in that way, then good for you. But
if you can afford to indulge in that way and you're listening to this podcast, please take me and Jude out.
I was going to say, please take us to a good wine tasting company, because we would like
educate us.
500
We're asking to be educated.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. What's the most expensive bottle of wine do you recall drinking? Because I don't think I've ever drunk anywhere near. I mean, I'm thinking of a Chateauneuf de Pape at this point.
Oh, I wouldn't know the name of it. I do know I've been out for some fancy meals where I haven't been paying, basically, and I've like gone, somebody's been ordering the wine. I'm like, I'm not paying, but it's delicious, and that's the thing. You just go, okay, it does taste quite expensive.
See, it'd be wasted on me. I wouldn't know. Just give me the cheap stuff and decanter it. I'll be fine. Clearly.
It's gonna be a Christmas gift next year now, decanter and the cheap bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Okay. So also just tapping back onto I think we could be talking about this for hours, to be honest. I love the winery experience. I love going to a winery and then also having a good lunch at the winery at the same time. And they have a good like shop.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, I want to buy all the cheeses to go with the wine.
Yeah,
and some beautiful crackers, and you just get absorbed into this. And then, if you're at the winery, like in Australia when I lived there, we used to go on like wine tasting tours. Like the first few, you're just like, yes, then you just start to get to a point. You've just been drinking and sipping, and you're like, I'll have 8 of these bottles shipped back to mine.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they do it, I'm sure, because by the end you go, I'll have a box of that, I'll have a box of that.
But that's the thing, I do love the experience of doing that, though. I think it is such a great thing to do with friends, have fun and share that experience, and then going for a nice lunch in the middle of these beautiful wineries in the middle of the countryside. I think the experience is really quite wonderful. I remember going, I want to say, I may get this wrong, but I remember going, like, we were in South Australia near in Adelaide, and we went out into the the Riesling Valley there, which is just the mind escapes me right now. I want to say the Yarra Valley, but that's incorrect. But it's like where they make really good Rieslings, and we went to a great restaurant there in the middle of this countryside, so like really famous chef. And we just sat there overlooking these beautiful wineries, eating like this beautiful food, like this beautiful matching wine, and you just sat there and you're like,
you feel very lucky and
yeah,
blessed.
this is special.
It's the life. It's
and that's the thing. It's a memory that like this was like years ago. Oh, they brought all of us back. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so we talk about wineries and experiences like that because I love those kind of things. How do you pick your wine, Jude? Like if you're going into a shop, how would you pick your wine?
So I've grown to know what I like and what I don't like, and my husband likes a different type of wine too. So we had to find a meeting in the middle. So he likes heavier wines like Zinfandels and Merlots.
I say so both red. So you both like.
Oh yeah, predominantly red. Although when we get to the summer, because it always feels like you're on holiday here, I do switch to the rosé. And my favorite rosé is Whispering Angel, which is I think a Californian grown wine. I love that rosé. It's really light. I don't like sweet wine.
I went through a phase of liking sweet wine for some reason. Like it was a phase. Like I was just like I only could have sweet wine.
What, like as a dessert wine?
No, there was just like this really, like, you get that really sweet wine. It wasn't dessert wine. It was just before that. Oh. I was just like, I used to love it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, I can't do any. It has to be dry. If it's white, it has to be dry and crisp.
Yeah.
If it's rosé, the same. I don't like anything too fruity. But when it comes to red, the way I describe a red wine to me is I want a hug in a glass, but I don't want anything that's going to be so heavy in tannins that it's going to make me really heady. Because that's what, as a woman of my age, sometimes too much heavy wine can always start a migraine. Yeah. So my choice of wine is based on finding a happy medium where I can enjoy something without getting a migraine the next day, number one. And number two, I think price point is quite good. And number three, I have to say, being in California, we are so fortunate to have so many amazing types of wines here. But my favorite is a Pinot Noir. And am I allowed to name the brand that I like the most?
I'm going to name mine. I've just got the bottle here, so.
Okay. So I love Bogle's Pinot Noir.
Okay.
That's my favorite. It's like a $10 bottle of wine. And it's really it's the perfect balance for me. Not too heavy, not too light, not too fruity. Pairs well with pretty much most things you eat. To my palate anyway. Like I said, I'm not a connoisseur, so that just ticks for me the box.
So the reason I'm just a bit distracted. So that's the thing. I was just like, because I'm just looking at this. I'm like, I like a good red as well. Like I like a good Malbec. And I've gone through a journey. I used to like really heavy, like Merlots and things like that. And then I've love a good Sangiovese. And you're talking about certain vines are only available that's only available in like Italy. Like the Sangiovese like vine is like very well known just for that. Malbecs are very like Argentinian. I've been to Argentina, Mendoza. Amazing. And that's why I've always would gravitate to that kind of thing. And one of my favorite wines, even in Australia, and it costs like $25 a bottle or $20 a bottle in Australia. Here, it's like $10.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's got to go a long way to Australia. And mine is like a nice Alamos.
Oh, yes.
One of my favorite, and I'm loving it because it says on the bottle that 100 years of a family winemakers. And I'm like, oh, I love that it's been going that long.
Yeah, it's not because and I wonder if they still do the traditional methods or if they've like advanced with those kind of histories of wine. Because back in the day, it was all foot, wasn't it? It was all everybody would come and tread on grapes, or was that just nostalgia in France? I don't know.
No idea. I'm not sure we're ready to have that conversation, but
we're not. Again, we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think as we like for me, grabbing a glass of wine after work, and this is what we were talking earlier, and just being able to just like sit back. It's like as you say, a hug in a glass.
Yeah, it's like that little sigh of relief, isn't it? It's like a little kind of and relax.
Exactly. One other thing, like when I'm choosing a bottle of wine, like because that's the thing. Sometimes you just go into a place you're like, I have no ideas. And sometimes do you ever go off the label?
I do if I like the sound of the name.
Yeah, like it's how you assess. It's like, well, I don't know what any of these taste like.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I've also tried, because this is also because I'm into fitness and things like that. There's fit wine. Have you heard of fit wine?
No.
Yeah, they sell it downstairs where I live. They fit wine, which is all
They
supposed to
sell
be
it
like
in your gym.
calorie conscious. They do sell it at the gym. Calorie conscious kind. I've also tried. Hi Beth. I'm going to name drop Bethany Frankel right now. Her skinny girl wine.
Oh,
Actually, quite delicious.
is it?
Yeah, it's actually quite nice.
And minimal sugar.
Minimal sugar. That's the thing. And I was
Right.
like, oh. That's the thing. When I used to come to America before I lived here, that's what I used to go and I used to buy a bottle of that.
Yeah, because that's the problem with wine is it tastes so good, but it's so calorific,
You
isn't
know
it?
when you've had those wines, right, where you've actually gone, oh, that's really, really doesn't taste that good at all.
Absolutely. For me, it's the sweet wines, those
Yeah.
dessert wines. I don't know how people can
Or
drink them.
that really bitter or tangy, and you're like,
Like I cannot do Chardonnays, white Chardonnays.
no, same.
They're too woody and oaky. I do not enjoy them at all.
No.
And it's the most common white wine here in California.
Yeah, I don't get that. Like I love white wine, but I only can drink white wine in moderation because it just gets me drunk. It's like if I just like, and that's it. I love a good rosé, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
I normally get like all French rosés because I just kind of like Provence.
Oh.
Very kind of, yeah, I like the dryness. Don't like them too sweet.
No.
But white wine, I like. I'm just like, I know I'm going to get drunk.
Okay, so you have to limit yourself on that one.
Yeah.
Do you like port?
Yeah, no, not in moderation. Once in a while.
Yeah, no, you see,
And the reason I'm just like laughing to myself, I've got two stories that just came up. My friend brought me arrived and was staying at my house and brought me a board. He's like, hey, I'll leave it for you. And I'm like, I don't really drink port that often. Like, but it also reminded, because I think I wrote down port as well, and then I scribbled it out because I'm like, is it a wine? And it is. It's a really fermented
the
wine.
fortified wine, isn't it? Yeah.
But what? Why am I telling this story? What years ago, and I'm just having flashbacks of this memory now. So like this is when I was at high school and things like that. And we were like, we went out. So it must have been like my high school, college. It must have been college because we were driving and we were driving out to this house party in the middle of the countryside in Essex, right? So Essex is the UK, where me and Jude are from. And we were going to this house party because my friend's parents were away. And we all went there and they had this big house in the country, like swimming pool and all things like that, right? Fancy place in Essex. So you know, Jude, it's fancy when you've got a swimming pool in Essex.
Fancy, yes.
And I remember going and there's like all this, like we took some alcohol and we all ran out of alcohol. And basically we found this bottle of port.
Oh, gosh.
In the cupboard. And we started drinking it. That was a big, they come in big bottles sometimes. So we were just necking it.
Oh, God, I bet the hangover was pleasant, wasn't it?
I can't remember getting home at all.
Oh, darling.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's funny that just, but I remember that, but we started drinking. I remember, and people were like jumping in the pool, fully clothed,
Oh,
and there's all people were vomiting everywhere. And I'm like,
fabulous. Sounds like a great party when you're in your 20s.
I know, right? So, have you actually tried orange wine?
No.
No.
Orange wine.
Yeah, so orange wine. It's from a lighter grape, like a red grape. It's called orange grape. Yeah, so it's becoming more popular, especially in Australia.
Really?
Last summer, yeah.
No, I never have. I want to try that.
Yeah, no, it's actually good. Some of the orange wines I've tried is actually they're quite delicious.
Because I literally thought there was white, rosé, and red.
I have a fact for you right now, Jude.
Ooh, can I have another sip for this?
You can. So, because I was like, let's just, I don't know why we're doing the definition now after we've been speaking for so long, but, what is the wine? The fermented juice of grapes made in many varieties such as red, white, sweet, dry, still, and sparkling. Because we haven't actually talked about sparkling yet, to be honest. For use of beverage in cooking, religious rites, can have an alcohol content anywhere between 14 to 2%. But what I found interesting, wine is an alcoholic beverage made from fermented juices of grapes. Technically, any fruit is capable of being used for wine, apples, cranberries, plums, etc. But if it says wine on the label, it's normally made from grapes.
Oh, I see. Well, I guess like cider is apples, isn't it?
True. See, that's the thing. But yeah, wine is normally just there. And then the other part was, let's get all of it science. Wine is an alcoholic drink made from fermented fruit. Yeast consumes the sugar into fruits and converts it into ethanol, ethanol and carbon
Yeah.
dioxide, releasing the heat in the process. I was like, science, clever.
Isn't it amazing? And I'd love to know who invented, like, because wine's been going on like since biblical times, hasn't it? So, and
Forever.
Roman times. I mean, it's literally forever. They must have just figured it out.
Okay, so question then. So wine's been there in like forever, right? Has like obviously science has helped us kind of make these better and things like that. But what did they do like in like there's always like wine and things in Roman times. They didn't have
Absolutely. And I remember when there wasn't any other form of liquid, you would have wine served at all meals of the day.
Yeah.
That's why the Romans were the way that they were, I'm sure of it.
Doesn't surprise me.
They were like
they were enjoying themselves. That's what they were.
A lot of fun from what I've seen from Cleopatra's movies and stuff like that. I'm just letting you know. I want to be Roman.
Well, I'm sure it could happen one day. Well, look, for the amount of wine, I'm just going to say, listeners, thank you. Hey, cheers, Jude. Cheers.
Cheers to you. Cheers to our viewers.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to our love of wine. It's such a beautiful thing, and I'm just going to enjoy this glass. And Jude's going to enjoy hers. And we're going to say thank you for listening to this podcast called Random Chats with Dade and Jude. I'm Dade.
And I'm Jude.
And cheers to you, and see you soon.